The Cleveland Browns are bringing in veteran defensive tackle Al Woods for a look this week. Could this be the final piece of a tremendous offseason puzzle thus far for Andrew Berry? We'll get to all that and more here on your latest Locked On Browns.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. G. Bush, look, G. Bush going to be down for a couple days, hoping the doc's going to spin their magic, get him back up and running soon. But it's been a rough couple of days for your boy here. We're going to get to some things here today. As we start to get information on top 30 visits, some reading of the tea leaves here. Maybe the Browns are not content at pick 74 and are considering trading up in the draft. We'll get to that. We will also get to the linebacker class. When you're poking around at the top linebacker in the class, it kind of tells you the Browns have some interest in that position in this upcoming draft. But first, as we opened with, veteran defensive tackle Al Woods, recently released by the Seattle Seahawks. He will be coming to Cleveland this week. A stop to the Jets, stop to the Browns. Browns and Jets seem to be competitors here on what is remaining of the interior defensive tackle class. Al Woods just turned 35 years old. He's been playing out a string of one-year deals the last few years with the Seattle Seahawks, certainly some other teams in that time as well. Like I said, 35 years old. So Al has been in the league for a while. You're looking predominantly here a one-year deal. But this is the guy who, over his last 5 seasons, PFF grade north of 65, average of about 79, pass pressure rate of 7.9%. Not what you would expect from a guy at his age or even his size at 6'4", 330. But the fact that he can actually get after the passer like he does. But he comes in here and can truly be a nose for what you invested into Dalvin Tomlinson. You want Dalvin Tomlinson to go out and wreak havoc. You know what I'm saying? You don't want him absorbing blockers. You don't want to have him have the responsibility of making sure your linebackers are clean. You're paying him to be a playmaker at $10 million per. Woods comes in and could be the perfect, fit here and allow Tomlinson to do what he can while you're grooming Perion Winfrey. You have no idea just yet what you're going to get from a Tristan Hill. You have no idea what you're going to get yet from Maurice Hurst. So you certainly need another proven guy in here. I'm not saying you're not going to draft somebody. You're going to consider drafting another defensive tackle. But the problem is you're going the unproven route again, and the Browns just can't do this anymore. They've tried. And whether it's the way they look and what they look at as far as draft prospects, it's the coaching, sure, scheme, sure. None of it's worked. I mean, none of it is matched up where they've had any success with the guys they have drafted to this point. Still holding out hope for Perion Winfrey. I think it's going to be a great, great situation for him to play for Jim Schwartz. But Al Woods, and one of the things that sticks out for me about Al Woods is you understand about a guy's character, his integrity, how he does his job. When a guy has several stints with the same, he's been a Seattle Seahawk 3 different times. He's been a Pittsburgh Steeler 2 different times. He was originally drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. It didn't work out. And after he was moved around, bounced around, came back and played again yet for the Steelers. So that tells you the kind of guy we're talking about. Of course, the bloom is off the rose here a little bit when you're talking about a guy who's 35 years old. But athletically, Al Woods once had a 37-inch vertical, probably about 6'4", 308, 309 at the day, but a 37-inch vertical at a guy of that size. You knew he was an athletic player. Tons of experience, has played in odd fronts, has played in even fronts. So there is some true nose ability there. You bring him in here. You give him the nice vet treatment if it works out and say, look, do with August what you will, what you need to be ready to go week one. The age, and this isn't normally a type of, player the Browns jump into the pool on, a guy who is 35 years old, but understanding the need, understanding the experience, understanding that the guy has, been a proven commodity everywhere he's gone, and the fact that he has been, a consummate in the locker room guy, former captain this past season in Seattle. So again, tells you the kind of individual you are dealing with. And maybe for guys like Hill, Hurst, and Winfrey, this is a good guy to look up to and maybe kind of pattern yourself after, and, try to understand what it takes to be in the NFL when you were drafted in 2010. And here it is, you're still drawing free agent interest in the year 2023. The Browns desperately need him. The Jets will see the pitch that works for them. The Browns probably in a spot where they can maybe go a little financially higher. The Jets are still in this limbo here because of the Aaron Rodgers situation and it not being official. And look, this could drag on with the Jets until day 2 of the NFL draft, as everybody's talking. Most likely it'll be, Jets hold pick 42. Jets also hold pick 43. So a lot of people believe that this could drag on that long. And, who knows, what exactly, if you're Green Bay, it's coming, it's going to be official, it's going to be hitting, but why not try to hold out for every last thing you can get? I guess that's exactly the thought process that the Green Bay Packers are going with it right here. I'm not sure if it's how successful it's going to be. But for me, in my opinion, Al Woods, you get him in that building, you put pen to paper, you make the man an offer he cannot refuse. But Al Woods would be the perfect final puzzle piece of what has been an incredible free agent run to this point in 2023 for Andrew Berry. So let's go ahead and get that one done. We're going to get to the linebackers here. And again, talking about these top 30 visits that become official, you kind of get an idea maybe what some plans are. We're going to get to that coming up here next. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. The Built March Madness bracket is here, and we're almost to the end. We know you have a favorite bar or puff, and now's your time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. I'll be voting for the cookies and cream bar. And if you want the Cleveland Browns to win, well, then you'll be voting for that bar to support your team, support your bar or puff. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you'll be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your front door. You got to try Built. At Built, the best protein bar ever. Seriously, they are so amazing. You won't think they are good for you. What makes Built bars and puffs so good? Well, for starters, they are all high in protein. They are low in sugar, and they are covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. Run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you are there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick. Announcements starting to trickle down now as far as top 30 official visits. One of the players that will be visiting the Cleveland Browns facilities, linebacker Trenton Simpson, out of the University of Clemson. So now the Browns, with interest, obviously, here in a player like Trenton Simpson. One of the things that says to me, though, is Trenton Simpson is most everywhere you go. Trenton Simpson is the overall top number 1 linebacker in the 2023 class. Now, when you and your first pick isn't until 74, it does make you wonder how this would all essentially work for the Cleveland Browns. But we're going to get to that in segment 3. But the class itself, and Trenton Simpson, 5'10", about 225, playing weight of about 230 pounds, was a rock star for Clemson, a solid player for them, leader of that defense. Tested really, really well to combine, looked really good in the drills, put it together with another phenomenal pro day as well. So this is a guy, and with the Browns linebacker room the way it is, this is probably a wise time to maybe look for a linebacker of the future. Anthony Walker is going to play a lot. Sione Takitaki is going to play a lot. You've got the two veterans that you brought in who are going to be special teamers. We all still have, Phillips is still here, Jacob Phillips. You still have Tony Fields. You still have, of course, Jeremiah Usu-Koramoah. But maybe for Jeremiah Usu-Koramoah and, there are some, naysayers on JOK. Maybe he was put out there too soon. Maybe he wasn't truly ready yet. Maybe he wasn't developed enough yet. So maybe you can get a chance to rewrite a wrong here if you're the Browns and bring a guy in and casually take him through. You don't have to push him. So you think about that when you're drafting here. Look, the Browns, and they've done a fantastic job. If you can get Al Woods in here, you do not essentially have an opening at a starting position. That is great work. That is great accomplishment to have done before your first OTAs even start. And the Browns could be there. But you get to the rest of this linebacker class. And I think, and we talked about this after the combine, I think some people are generally down on this linebacker class. And I think the reason is it's just not a large class. And we've gotten into this, of course. It's a position, I don't want to say it's a dying position, because every time we try to talk about some aspect of football and say, oh, that's a dying part of football, there's some brilliant coach out there that says, well, if nobody's doing it anymore, I'm the guy that's going to make it my calling card. And then copycat that everybody else starts going that route. Drew Sanders, Arkansas, is a really nice linebacker prospect, but 6'5", almost 240 pounds. I don't know where he fits for the Browns, because I think you can also play him at edge. And look, if a guy's an edge or a guy's a linebacker, most teams are going to gamble that you're going to play the player as an edge player first and then say, well, if that doesn't work out, then we'll play you at linebacker. Think Jannard Avery back in the day, former Cleveland Brown, obviously. Jack Campbell from Iowa. Look, his everything to this point has been fantastic. Big kid. My only thing is size-wise, does he have the true athleticism? And he tested well to go sideline to sideline. I think he does. 6'5", 240. But do you bring this guy in at Mike, knowing and how much is he going to get? How many opportunities is he going to get when you already have Anthony Walker here in front of him? And Anthony Walker seems like he's not thrilled about the contract he got. And sorry for Anthony Walker. He probably deserved a little bit more. But I think people have questions about the injury and the recovery time. But Anthony Walker could be in a case here where he's maybe possibly going to be grooming a replacement for himself. The one guy nobody talks about, Noah Sewell out of Oregon. Obviously, everybody familiar with his brother. He's just a guy that makes plays, gets things done. Ivan Pace Jr. out of Cincinnati. Highly productive guy. But we'll see. Browns, guy is under 6 feet tall. So we'll see if that's something the Browns do have interest in. Dayan Henley, Washington State. You want to talk, 6'1", about 228, yoked up as can be, ferocious in the hole. If it's he versus the ball carrier, he wins most of the time. Physical guy, when the play is in front of him, reads and reacts to that very well. So it could be somebody at the Browns, could have interest in here. Henry Toyoto, Alabama. And this is weird because everything about this guy on tape at Alabama, everything you heard about during Alabama games, everything you heard about from the Alabama coaching staff, raved, would not stop talking about the type of player this guy is. Didn't test very well. And now all of a sudden he's a guy that somebody, people just don't want to talk about so much anymore. We get so caught up in, the athletic numbers and the testing that sometimes it does a big disservice to players who just have ridiculously good and excellent tape. He is one of those guys. A name that is really starting to pick up steam is DeMarvin Overshawn, University of Texas. Big kid, lots of activity in the middle there for Texas. In my opinion, he's a guy that's going to be a true Mike. He would be a nice guy to bring in here and basically just tell him, hey, there's Anthony Walker, wherever he goes, whatever he eats, whatever he watches, you copy that, become the type of player that he is. Because keep in mind, Anthony Walker was once a 5th round linebacker selected back in his day as well. And a name I'm not going to stop talking about anytime soon. I have a connection within the Tulane program, friends of friends, a young man who plays down there. I've got to talk to him a little bit about Tyjae Spears, the type of guy he is, what he did for that program. And basically, those conversations led to the guy on the other side of the ball who did all those things, was the leader, was the guy who everybody followed, and that's Dorian Williams. Dorian Williams plays like his hair's on fire. He's controlled. He's concise. He's vicious. He tested really well at the combine. The drills were excellent. This is, again, this linebacker class is better than people want to give it credit for. But again, these things sometimes happen because when you get in a situation where there's just not a lot of kids, people start maybe kind of looking the other way. Browns, to this point, and we continue to say this, the Andrew Berry regime, if you're not happy with the linebacker class, I think you look foolish. If you're not happy with the way the linebackers have worked under the Andrew Berry regime, you look kind of foolish. The Browns are investing no money into their linebackers, but yet every year they seem to get more and more of a return from the linebacker room. And it's just facts. They're not putting anything into it. Not putting very better, they're not putting high draft capital into it. JOK was the highest thing they did and was a second round pick. They're paying no money to it. They are getting all that back and then some. They are getting more back from their linebacker room than they actually have physically invested into it. So late day 2, day 3 linebacker, the interest in Trenton Simpson is certainly interesting, and we're going to get to that here when we flip it up to segment 3. But the Browns in on the linebacker class. You want to get one kid in here. Obviously the plan would probably be for Sione Takitaki to play really, really well, and then parlay that into a big contract. Maybe it's one the Browns can't match. Anthony Walker, if things go well, maybe a little bit more money, but you're not sure. Like a guy like Anthony Walker didn't get much interest. Maybe next year Anthony Walker, healthy, gets more interest. But Browns definitely have interest in the top. But look, when you are bringing the top linebacker in a draft class in for a visit, you are most likely drafting a linebacker within that same draft. So that is what leads to there. Like I said, we're going to flip it up here. And we got some signs here looking to me, at least, that the Browns are not content at pick 74 and possibly looking to trade up in the 2023 NFL draft. Stick around. Jeff Lloyd, Locked On Browns. For all your Browns coverage, make sure you are subscribed to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Make sure you have the notifications on, so when the content drops, you are there to absorb it. Throw some likes on the episodes. Continue the promotional work for myself and G. Get well, get better, bud. We miss you over here. And as always, Locked On Browns is available on your favorite podcast platform. Always available, always free. So, as we mentioned with Trenton Simpson, the Browns are now hosting the top linebacker in the class. The Browns are also hosting later this week wide receiver Jalen Hylett. They hosted today wide receiver Tank Dell. And my buddy Jack Duffin, Tank Dell is going to be one that is going to really mess up your metrics, as you know. Tank Dell already 23 years old. So certainly, interesting there is he would turn 24 in October. And these are not usually the guys age-wise that Andrew Berry spends draft capital on. But the interesting part with Trenton Simpson, obviously with Jalen Hylett, Tank Dell, I think it's a player you could have at 74, is the Browns are looking at players and bringing in players on top 30 official visits who are slated to go much, much higher in the draft than pick 74. So now if you're the Browns, are you looking to jump up? You could parlay 74 and you could maybe parlay two picks and maybe get up higher. Simpson, I've seen, ranked as high as 32 on some people's overall boards. It's kind of curious how you would actually get, how much you would have to give up to get up that high. But obviously it's a player that they feel comfortable enough that they're going to bring in for a visit. Jalen Hylett, there's a lot of talk, obviously, Tennessee with Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hylett. Jalen Hylett had a fantastic year. People are up and down on him as a lot of, great play calling led to a lot of wide open Jalen Hylett that led to a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns. But I think the Browns think, that could be a similar situation that they are going to put Jalen Hylett in as well. And Tank Dell, 23, going to be 24 in late October. But it does seem that the Browns, all signs would be pointing at, trading up, because you usually don't want to take visits with players, that you think you can't ascertain, you cannot get your hands on. So it puts you in a tough position, in managing the draft. Of course, look, anything can happen. Round 1, Simpson can go, first 3 picks of day 2, Jalen Hylett can go. So you get yourself in an odd situation here. But it does seem odd that the Browns are big game hunting, so to speak, for players that maybe necessarily will not be in the draft range with the capital they have. Could, in one of these scenarios, could there be a possibility where there is a rostered player that the Browns maybe consider moving on from? The talks, obviously, and we've had them, cornerback. Could you move on from somebody at the cornerback position, even though it's a deep class? Somebody could some team could be left as the one sitting out and not getting a cornerback that they wanted, the cornerback they were hoping to bring in. So certainly avenues there. But, the Browns definitely seem, that they feel that maybe this is a 2 to 3 player draft for them. I think they'll find a way to kick some picks to 2024. An opportunity here where maybe they're only looking to draft, 74 or higher, 98, and then one of those, round 4 picks, and saying that's it. I mean, it could be the case. The wide receiver room, you talk about, if you draft a wide receiver, it doesn't matter who all these guys are that are going to sit there and battle royal out for, wide receiver 7, 8, or 9. They draft a wide receiver in the top 100. That team is going to make the team. There's no question about it. So you have those, thoughts that you have to look at. So again, Cleveland here, and this is, one of the things that, I think a lot of people just don't understand about the work that Andrew Berry does, is there is no stone ever unturned. Every opportunity, every possibility to find a way to improve this team, Andrew Berry will not follow the trail. He will do everything he can. And it's impressive to watch the man work. And look, not everybody bats 1,000. We understand that, but he acts sometimes like he's batting 0, which is certainly not the case as well. I got time here, and this was snuck in through the DMs, and it was one question, and it was response to the episode yesterday. And again, thanks Pete Smith for joining us here. As far as the running backs, and you had a couple questions here on why we felt we did about some of the guys we do. For Tucker was one that was mentioned in the DM, and then of course Keaton Mitchell that Pete brought up here as well. Especially was probably more regards to Mitchell is, he seems like a one-trick pony, a guy that just finds open space. But when any of these guys are coming on the field for the Cleveland Browns, they're the 5th option. They are truly the 5th option. You're coming on and you say it's, it's 11 personnel. So Njoku's on the field, Coop's on the field, Elijah Moore's on the field, DPJ's on the field. If it's 10 personnel, then you are now getting David Bell on the field, or Marquise Goodwin, and David Njoku's coming out. There is so much talent that the Browns can put on the field that if it's not Nick Chubb at running back, the defense, the running back is probably going to be the last player they are thinking about. So if you want to go out and get a burn back like Keaton Mitchell, I'm with you. But I mean, granted, in 5'11", 170, ain't much on that frame. There ain't. Going to have to find a way to get him to a nice place, get some pierogies in him, get the kid, bossed up a little bit. But the reason for the emphasis and why some of these kids, even if they're going to be day 3 running backs for this team, why they have the appeal they do is nobody's going to be expecting anything from them as far as the defensive side of the ball. All eyes are going to be focused on Njoku. They're going to be focused on Coop, Moore, DPJ, Goodwin, and of course David Bell. You say all these names and you see the length, and we're starting to talk about this more like a baseball roster of weapons that the Browns have at the skill positions. It's a really, really, drastic turn here. A lot of question marks, and if this kid takes a step, and this is what we've done the last couple of years, and if this kid takes a step, we're not doing those things anymore. What the expectation is there for all these guys, the resume is there for all these guys to go out and contribute. Obviously, you need Deshaun to get in his groove, make everything happen, which we all anticipate and figure will happen. So today we have covered Al Woods coming into Cleveland this week for a visit. In my opinion, the perfect final puzzle piece to finish off free agency for Andrew Berry. Browns, when you are courting the top linebacker in the class, obviously you have some interest in drafting a linebacker in a draft class. And with some of the top 30 official visits the Browns have made up until this point, all eyes, in my opinion, look like the Browns maybe aren't that comfortable at 74. And there are some players they would like to, and they think they have the ammunition to jump up in this draft to get. And that may not just include draft picks. It could certainly include a rostered player currently. I am Jeff Lloyd at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. Make sure you throw a follow over there at Locked On Browns, follow back account as well. All your Browns content, make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Notifications on, episodes drop, shorts drop, whatever. And you are there to consume it. Throw likes on the episode. Help with the promotions, of course. Please and thank you. Throw a follow over to G Bush at GBush91. Again, G, get better. This solo stuff ain't what it's cracked up to be. We miss you over here. And of course, straight audio, wherever your favorite podcast platform is. Locked On Browns is always there, always free. So make sure you're checking that out as well. All that being said, this has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go, Browns.